Good morning to everybody on the wall. All right, let me get my script. Okay, welcome to First Parish Church of Stowe and Acton, FPC, to our members and friends, a welcoming spiritual community. My name is Johanna Pyle, and I serve as the clerk on the Board of Trustees. I want to particularly welcome those who are joining us from off-site as well. Today is Sunday, December 5th, the 7th day of Hanukkah and the second week of Advent. And we give blessings today for our second week back in our beautiful sanctuary after 20 months away. As we begin, we would like to acknowledge that this service is being held by a community that gathers on the stolen traditional lands of the Massachusetts, Nipmuc, Pawtucket, and Wampanoag people. We pay respect to elders who lost their lives in the colonization of this land and recognize that these indigenous tribes are still facing violations of sovereignty, territory, and water. We also give thanks for the earth we walk upon, the waters, the life-giving plants, and all the earth's creatures, as well as the winds, sun, moon, and stars. We recognize this is just a first step in moving towards right relationship with Native peoples and healing of the earth. If you are joining us from elsewhere in the country, we encourage you to research what Native American tribes were originally on the land where you are. If this is your first time with us, we welcome you. Our minister is the Reverend Cindy Landrum. We invite you to check out our webpage, fpc-stowe-acton.org, for news and information. You can also sign up there for our newsletter and email alerts called FPC Announce, and for our email forum, the FPC Forum. Please take a moment after the service to chat with our welcoming and membership coordinator, who's sitting right over there, who can help get you connected and tell you more about FPC. For those who are joining from off-site, our off-site welcome volunteer will now identify themselves in the chat and wave their hand, and they can help you get more information and answer some questions or point you to people who can. Don't know who it is today.
Today it's Ingrid.
It's Ingrid Holcomb today. Our Director of Religious Education is Michelle Cote. She may be leaving before the end of the service to ready things for our religious education program today. So if you would like more information about religious education, her email is on our webpage, or ask Reverend Cindy for more information. If you're on site and off site, again, ask our welcome volunteer. Because our service may include people who are unvaccinated and people with unvaccinated family members, we're asking that whenever we are in larger groups like this, we remain masked and observe 3 feet of social distancing when in the building. Please check with people you are talking to about what distance they would like you to be at, so that everyone can be as comfortable and welcome as possible. There are 3 best restrooms available for use: the 2 by the Fellowship Hall and the 1 upstairs in the connector just down the hall from these doors. Please pay attention to the COVID protocols posted in there. Vestry restrooms, which are the ones downstairs, do not have exhaust fans, so are staff only, and those in lower Fellowship Hall are reserved for children and volunteers down there. After the service, it's our custom to have coffee hour. Our COVID protocols do not allow us to eat and drink in the building yet, but our Fellowship Hall is available today for you to congregate in for a while after the service. Please join us there for conversation and to learn more about our church community. For our off-site people, we will have breakout groups in the Zoom room. Here are the major announcements. You may have noticed that this week we added a voluntary question about vaccination to our registration form. While I do not have access to individual answers, Reverend Cindy has let me know that this week 100% of those who registered for this service answered the question, and 100% said that all members of their group are vaccinated. This is fabulous to know that we have such a high vaccination rate among our members and friends. Thank you all for being willing to share that information. And additional announcements include our, hold on, upcoming FPC cookie swap is almost upon us. Tuesday, December 7th at 7 p.m. It is being held virtually, but I know they had a lot of fun last year sharing poems and readings and eating delicious cookies, presumably. So the Zoom link is in your order of service. There is a Saturday morning breakfast coming back with Jeff Brown on December 11th, 2021. And I imagine he'll be sending out more information in FPC Announce about that. And also this afternoon, we have a wonderful live-streamed musical event that the choir is offering for the community. It is held, for you it would be virtual, so there is a link on the website. It will be going through YouTube, which is interesting. I've never been on YouTube before. And so if you want to join us, or also it will be held live for a while. I don't know how long. You can watch it at another time, but today it's, how many?
Couple weeks, I think.
Couple weeks. But today it's at 5 o'clock, and you will be invited to join along and sing in your homes. It's pretty casual and should be a lot of fun. And now I invite you to, I have to do my acknowledgments next.
Yes, you have that first.
Sorry. God. Am I getting paid for this?
Yes.
In flowers. Flowers, and unfortunately I don't see anybody who's here, but I would like to recognize some folks who went above and beyond the call of duty for church volunteerism, and that is folks who are on the COVID task force and also the ventilation task force. And two of them are online. So Katie Weeks, I have a unicorn, a silver unicorn and a flower for you, and we thank you very, very much. And Rebecca Stodolnik is also online, and we'll be looking forward to giving you a unicorn gift card and flower. And the other two who are not here are Bill Froberg and Scott Feldhusen. All of these people did just an incredible amount of work to make it happen.
And the rest were recognized.
And we also had other people recognized in the first service. Do you have that list?
It's
I
in the
saw
order
it somewhere.
of service. Includes Leah Abraham.
Oh, here it is. Yeah, Leah Abraham, Deb O'Connell, Jenny Edgerton, and Lee Cooprider. So, thank you very much. Am I done?
Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
Greet your neighbor.
Now I invite you to take a moment and greet your neighbor. Off-site participants, we encourage the use of the chat box for this.
That is a lot, I know. Especially because we've added all this stuff about the off-site. But I think it's good. Thank you. Thank you, yes, because I didn't print them off, so. Sure, yeah. Marcia's gonna light the shells for us. Good morning. It's good to see you all this morning. Our words for calling us to worship this morning are written for this Sunday in particular, this Hanukkah Sunday in the year 2021 by my colleague Rachel Hayes. In a time that was long ago, in a time that is now, things seemed impossible. Holding close what mattered most, creating a future for their children, honoring the lessons of their forebears. They were so tired, but every time their strength almost failed, they found just a little bit more. To say to each other, this matters. To say to the ages, this is who we are. To say to their God, You above all, Jehovah. They knew that they did not have enough oil to last, but still they set flame to wick. They had come too far not to do so. Everyone knew that they did not have enough oil, but the oil did last for God, for the ages, for each other, in a time that was long ago, in a time that is now. The lights of Hanukkah shine in the night, in a time that was long ago, in a time that is now. People find fuel and dare to set fire to it, knowing it cannot last. But sometimes it lasts. Sometimes it lasts. I invited anyone in our congregation who is of Jewish heritage or celebrates Hanukkah to bring their Hanukkah menorahs if they wanted to this week and to share them with us and light the candles this morning. Has anyone done so? I didn't think so. So knowing that we don't have anyone from the Jewish heritage among us who wanted to share their Hanukkah with us this morning, I am not going to light our Hanukkah menorah or Hanukkah because I'm not of that heritage. And lighting the candles is an evening custom. It's not a thing that we really do during the days. So if I was from that heritage and I wanted to light them during the day to demonstrate, I would do so, but since I'm not of that heritage, I'm not going to light them at the improper time for you this morning. But we have our Hanukkah menorah here today symbolizing those Jewish members who are part of our community and our connection to the Judeo heritage as part of our faith tradition this morning. And so I wanted to take a special moment to just honor and recognize that today. This is the 6th day of Hanukkah. I am going to light several other candles this morning, and I'm going to begin with the candle for World AIDS Day. World AIDS Day is December 1st, and we light this candle every year on the Sunday closest. We were virtual last Sunday, so I wanted to make sure to light it this Sunday, in memory of all those who died of AIDS during the time of its epidemic and since, and all those living with AIDS, for that they too are remembered and held up in their strength and their struggle today. And these words for lighting our Advent candle for this second week of Advent come from the Reverend David Breeden. This second Sunday in Advent, we light a flame in hope that darkness will be dispelled by this holiday season. May the darkness of winter be dispelled in this festival of lights, and may the darkness of ignorance be dispelled in the strength of compassion, reason, and sharing. And then lastly, one of our lay ministers, Marcia, is going to light our chalice for us this morning. The chalice is the flame of Unitarian Universalism. Our chalice is fueled by oil appropriate in this season for our faith of many faiths, for the heritage of many heritages, for all the diversity and complexity among us. We light our chalice this morning. Our opening hymn is Mi Yimayal. It's a Hanukkah hymn, and I invite you to rise if you wish, to hum along as a couple of our choir folks sing for us this morning. And please remain standing in body or spirit and join in saying the words of our covenant quietly to yourselves, and using the symbols of putting your hand over your heart and a hand extended so that we can see a visual sign of how we are joining together in covenant, since we can't see our lips moving, and then join in humming along for our affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. So hard not to just automatically sing, isn't it? Please be seated. Michelle.
I am taking this off today because I heard from many people last week that they couldn't hear me, but I've had all the vaccinations. Good morning. As you can tell from looking around, we're getting ready for the holidays here at FBC. We have our Hanukkah menorahs here, and our Christmas decorations are up throughout the building. Usually, seeing these decorations makes people feel happy and or excited, but for some people, seeing these things can make them feel unsure, maybe a little unhappy, maybe for some even really unhappy. So I have a story that I'd like to share called The Weight of a Snowflake. It's about two birds who see a situation in a different way. The birds are a chickadee and a cardinal, and these are birds that stay around for the winter season, and they are both out one day when it starts to snow. The chickadee was perched on a branch of a maple tree, watching the snowflakes fall. A bright red cardinal flew over and landed nearby. "What you doing?" chirped the cardinal. "Watching snowflakes," said the chickadee. The cardinal cocked his head and said, "What for?" "They're pretty, and each one is different. I haven't seen two that look the same." "A snowflake is a snowflake, that's what I say," said the cardinal, "and they're cold. Me, I can't wait until spring. This winter stuff, it's for mammals. They have fur even on their toes. Us birds, all we got is scales." The chickadee nodded, but she didn't say yes, and she didn't say no. White snowflakes kept falling all around them as the blue shadows deepened to gray. The cardinal put his foot down and hopped sideways to get a little closer. "What you doing now?" he asked. "I'm counting snowflakes," said the chickadee. "What on sky for?" "I was wondering how many snowflakes this branch would hold." "Don't worry about it, that's what I say," said the cardinal. "Snowflakes don't weigh anything." "Not anything?" "Well, almost not anything. Snowflakes weigh next to nothing. They don't count for anything, and they're all the same." "You know what, little chickadee? You should find something else to do, that's what I say." The chickadee nodded, but once again she didn't say yes, and she didn't say no. After a moment, The cardinal clacked his beak, flapped his strong red wings, and flew away. The chickadee perched where she was on the branch, continuing to count the snowflakes. As more snowflakes fell, each one different, each one beautiful. Some of them landed on the branch, some of them landed on her. Snowflake after snowflake, each one weighing almost next to nothing, but each one counting for something. And as the dusk deepened into darkness, and as the chickadee counted snowflake number 10,303, that branch broke from the weight of the snow. The chickadee fell with the branch, but only for a moment, for she flapped her wings and flew up into the snowflakes that fell from the sky. Each snowflake different, each snowflake beautiful, each snowflake counting for something in its own way. When I first read this story the other day, I have to say, I realized how often I felt like the cardinal lately, looking at the negatives that are part of my life, kind of being down a little, overwhelmed with all the issues that I feel like I have to deal with. Yet, after I read this, I started to think maybe I could make myself take a few minutes and be more like the chickadee and count snowflakes. That I could count the good things in my life, my family, the kindness that I read about or see from others, that I have a house, a job, that I have awesome colleagues, that I have some wonderful children that I get to work with, that everyone that I know right now is healthy. Now I recognize that counting my blessings won't always make the sadness or the being overwhelmed go away, but it seems that it can help. Then I had another thought, that the snowflakes could also represent each person here at FPC. Each of you is like the snowflakes that the chickadee saw. Beautiful, different, and you each count for something in your own way. You each are a blessing. You each are important. It's true, one snowflake doesn't weigh really anything, but many snowflakes together have weight, have substance. Together, like many snowflakes, let's look for the good in each other, and especially at this time of year, let's support each other and try to help each person find the true spirit of the holidays that they celebrate. So this month, as you know, I like to give you a little challenge every week. This one's for the whole month. Try to find one time a day to count your snowflakes of positives and blessings. Then a second challenge, find a way each day to help one other person. And together, we can create a blizzard of FPC kindness throughout the month. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. This is a time in our service when we share our joys and sorrows together in community. And so we're doing something new this week, which is that we're sharing them off-site and on-site and letting you share them yourselves. If you filled out a joy or sorrow form, you can hand it to Marcia, who'll hand it to me to read. But you are also welcome to come up to the microphone yourself for those in the room and share your joy or sorrow after I share those that we've received electronically. And then after we've heard the ones here on site, then we'll turn to the off-site. We have to do it one at a time that way. We can't go back and forth because of the complexities of unmuting and remuting different cameras and microphones going on in order to make this possible. So we have to do kind of one group, then the other group. But what we'll do is we'll hear those in the room, and then when those are done, we'll hear those from our off-site folks, and you're welcome to unmute and share in the microphone then, and I'll call on you at that time. And thank you to Marcia for lighting candles. Let's light one last candle for those joys and sorrows that are left unspoken. One of the losses that I've felt this year was the loss of my colleague, Cynthia Fredo, who was a minister that I knew here in Massachusetts back from when I was minister in Gardner. And she wrote this meditation that I'd like to share with you this morning. I shared it with you a couple years ago too, but because she was on my heart and mind, she passed away only a few weeks ago, I thought I would share her words today. Psalm for the wintered soul. 2. the weaver of molecules, the spinner of stars, the impulse that gives birth to the universe, to the earth, to me. In the deepest, darkest night of my wintered soul, I wrap myself in the blanket of my sadness and grief, pain and suffering, doubt and concerns, fear and questions, and look out from my wandering eyes towards the light that dares to penetrate the layers of blindness that surround me. So obscured is my vision because of the trials and tribulations of this life, that it is your fractal rays of possibility and hope that I seek to inspire me to emerge from this cocoon that holds me. Each luminescent ray of love and hope and possibility is the catalyst which I need to transform my thoughts and emotions into fuel for that inner fire, which will dispel the darkness of my night, which will help me to see more clearly the embers of love and hope and possibility that dwell within me. I long to be filled with renewed energy and strength to thrust new life into these wings of my rebirth, the fragile fragments of my life, the ingredients in the alchemist's hand, creating a new energetic substance to course through my veins. The womb of my blessing, the womb of my becoming has been one of struggle and transformation. I was never meant to remain in the confinement of darkness. I was created to dwell in the infinite light. 2. The weaver of molecules, the spinner of stars, the impulse that gives birth to the universe, to the earth, to me. Spring will come again, this I know, and I will be ready for my emergence and unfolding, that I might soar ever higher into my own becoming, into the light of my own transcendence, reawakened, renewed, reborn. Amen, and blessed be. This next song, when Brad shared it with me, I was so moved by reading the lyrics, and I didn't even hear the tune because I'm not that great a sight reader, but I know that it can be sung along with Away in a Manger, and the words and the lyrics echo that song and then call us to awareness of those children, refugee children, who are in danger today. And especially at this time of year, we remember that the story of Jesus' birth tells us that Jesus was a refugee. And this song tells us to be mindful of refugee children now. Anything else you want to add, Brett?
No, just that please find the words in your insert so that you can follow along closely, so that you can really see and hear what we're singing about today.
Away and in danger, no hope of then. The refugee children, no tears left to shed. Look up at the night sky for someone to know that refugee children have no place to go. The babies are crying, their hunger awaits. The boat is too loaded, it shudders and breaks. Humanity's wreckage is thrown out to die. The refugee children will never know why. Come close, little children, we hold out our hand in rescue and welcome to shores of the land. Here are all touching your fear and your pain, with dreams for your future when peace comes again.
Our reading is titled When You Meet Someone in Deep Grief by Patricia Mckiernan Runkle. When you meet someone in deep grief, slip off your shoes and set them by the door. Enter barefoot this darkened chapel, hollowed by loss, hallowed by sorrow, its gray stone walls and floor. You, congregation of one, are here to listen, not to sing. Kneel in the back pew, make no sound, let the candles speak. Thus ends the reading. We have been really blessed in this community to be able to continue through this hard time of pandemic, to continue sharing our plate with the different agencies that we've voted to support in this way, one of which is the UU Urban Ministry. And through the miracle of technology, but mostly through the miracle of Hector, we are able to share a video with the minister of the UU Urban Ministry with you. I say mostly through Hector because we got an email on Friday with the video, but it didn't have the video. But I didn't notice that when I forwarded it to Hector Saturday night. And Hector realized it, emailed them, they emailed back, he's got the video and he's ready to play it. So here you go, with no further ado, the UU Urban Ministry.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Mary Margaret Earle, and I'm the Executive Director and Senior Minister of the Unitarian Universalist Urban Ministry in Roxbury. Thank you so much for welcoming me this morning to your service at First Parish Stowe and Acton, and for inviting me to share with you more about the work of the Urban Ministry. For nearly 200 years, the Urban Ministry has worked for a more just Greater Boston, and that remains true in 2021. Our mission is to work across race and place to dismantle racism and white supremacy culture and to advance racial, social, and economic justice. Over the course of our history, we've done many things. Today, we do three basic things. We provide programs and services for survivors of domestic violence, including an emergency shelter and a workforce development program for survivors. We provide after-school and summer employment programming for Boston high school students. We focus on cultivating an appreciation for history and a sense of place, and offer opportunities for young people to learn to become tour guides to lead our historic walking tours of our community. And we offer community engagement through the arts and humanities. We highlight the work of artists of color from Roxbury, promote Black-owned businesses and cultural institutions in Roxbury, and we partner with other Roxbury organizations. In 2022, we want to do even more, and we will, with the help of congregations like yours. We are grounded in Roxbury, the historic heart of Boston's African-American community, and we're encircled by UU congregations like Stowe and Acton, congregations that are grounded in a commitment to social justice. Our location at the intersection of these two communities, Roxbury and UU congregations, is a call. It calls for us to work across communities, to build a community that can work for real, and lasting change. I hope you'll support the work of the Urban Ministry by reaching out to our community engagement team, by coming in for a visit, by watching one of our community conversation webinars to learn more about the issues that are facing Roxbury, and by making a contribution this morning. Many thanks to you, and wishing you and yours a healthy and happy holiday season.
When I think of all the times the world was ours for dreaming, when I think of all the times the earth seemed like our home, every heart alive with its own longing, every future we could ever hope to hold. All the times our laughter rang in summer, all the times the river sang our tune. Was there already sadness in the sunlight? Some stormy story waiting to be told? Where, oh, where has the innocence gone? Where, oh, where has it gone? Rain's rolling down, wash away my memory. Where, oh, where has it gone? When I think of all the joys, the wonders we remember, all the treasures we believed we'd never ever lose. Too many days gone by without their meaning. Too many darkened hours without their peace. Where, oh, where has the innocence gone? Where, oh, where has it gone? Vows we once swore, now it's just this letting go. Where, oh, where has it gone? Where, oh, where has the innocence gone? Where, oh, where has it gone? Rain's rolling down, wash away my memory. Where, oh, where has it gone?
I'm telling you, folks, that was beautiful first service, but it was like even more beautiful second service. You picked well. Thank you so much, Brad. I'm always remembering the danger of following the music with the preaching is that I get a little bit welled up. The first week in December is always a time that marks some sadness for me. The month begins with World AIDS Day on December 1st, and that's a time for thinking about the losses of that epidemic in its heyday, how devastating it was for the gay population in particular, and how many people I knew watched so many of their loved ones die. But then as the month moves on, and I come to the first weekend of December, I always get writer's block as I'm preparing for that first Sunday in December. I get there and I'm just stuck and I cannot write. And for the life of me, I don't know why. Why am I so particularly stuck? Why can't I write? And then I remember. I remember that December 5th, which today is the day of, is the anniversary of the day that one of the members of my former congregation, Chris Keith, and her son, age 12 at the time, Isaac Miller, were killed, murdered in an act of domestic violence. And it hits me like a stone. And I weep, and then I can write again. My conscious mind doesn't know why I can't write. But in the words we use in the trauma community, words from the title of a well-known book on trauma, the body keeps the score. My body knows what my mind doesn't, and what I need to do and honor at this time of year in order to move forward. Their deaths were almost a year, a little bit short of it, after the horrible tragedy that happened in this part of the country in Sandy Hook, when so many innocent lives were lost. And then this year, our December began with yet another school shooting, this time in my home state of Michigan, in the rural area north of the Detroit suburbs. My mother called me last night and said that the churches in Detroit area are spending today focused on just supporting their members in a time of grief and mourning for those 4 teenagers killed and the additional ones wounded. So December starts for me in sorrow. And I try not to always start my preaching month in sorrow, but every so often I do. Because I know it's not just for me, that there are a lot of people for whom this time of year is a time of grief, a time of struggle, a time of remembering losses. And maybe this year more than usual because we've lost so many more people than a normal year because of the pandemic. So for some, this time is a time when they are recognizing a recent loss or an anniversary of a loss. And for others, maybe the loss wasn't at this time of year or even recent, but this is a time of year when you remember that loss because of some connection you had to that person at this time of year at the holidays. And so your sorrow, your grief that is always present is just that much deeper. And it can feel very out of step with the culture around us, and that makes it even harder to struggle with because the culture is full of red ribbons and festive garlands and jingle bells and sleigh rides and ho-ho-hoing and gift-giving and joy. And that's all well and good, but it makes that much harder sometimes for those who are carrying grief. And so I think it's an important thing to do in our Unitarian Universalist churches to acknowledge this, to say, this is okay, and this is normal. And it's okay to be out of step with the culture at times. Sometimes it's a moment, sometimes it's a day, sometimes it's the whole season. And to honor those losses, and to hold them in your heart. Other struggles at life too sometimes can make this a difficult time, not just grief and loss, but other struggles we might be dealing with. The focus on consumerism if you're struggling with money, the focus on joy if you're struggling with any other sort of pain in your life, the shopping when your knees ache. Theological disconnect can also sometimes make this time of year hard. For non-Christians who don't believe in Jesus as their Lord and Savior, and who believe that that birth was like any other birth. For Jews who don't believe in the Hanukkah myth and take it literally either, who struggle with the idea of the oil lasting for 8 days. It can be a similar time of disconnect with their culture, and also a time of disconnect with the larger American culture, which is ignoring one holiday in favor of the Christian ethos. For all of our people of different faiths that we bring together in Unitarian Universalism, there can be a disconnect with the overwhelming Christianity of our culture, a frustration that we don't live up to the separation of church and state when it comes with everything from concerts at our children's schools to what vacation days were allotted and more. So the first message of today is, like every time I preach about this, is it's okay to be out of step with your culture. Consider yourself the counterculture right now, and grief in particular is a normal and healthy process. Our hearts, our souls need to mourn when we have loved and lost. And for those feeling a theological disconnect, this church is a place of welcome. Here we will tell the old stories of Hanukkah and Christmas and others, and we'll wrestle with that which has been changed over the centuries, or how people remember it, or where we simply just don't even believe the text as it stands. To talk about Christmas, which is the holiday I know best, I will say plainly, I believe that the birth narrative was a narrative that was added to a historical person. Because in those days, when you had someone who you thought was extraordinary, that's what you did. You told stories of their miraculous birth and their miraculous childhood as an example of how this was a miraculous person. You made up lineages that connected them to other important people as a way of saying this person is important. There were other tales of virgin births, other tales of people descended from kings, other tales of people who were a Messiah. And then, too, there are things we've made up or mistranslated over the centuries. The stable, the inn. There's really no such thing in the biblical text. That's mistranslations and then modern understandings. The idea of an innkeeper standing there and saying no room, not there. And then there's, even if this was recorded by eyewitnesses and perfectly translated and perfectly understood over the centuries, many of us might still sit here and say, we just don't believe that. Here we are at the time of year when people are talking about miracles, and some of us, we just don't believe in that. And for some of those for whom this is true, I am with you. This is a time when we can feel out of step with the whole of American culture as it wraps itself in this mythos. And so next week I'm going to be talking about joy. For some of you who are just here because, like, I wanted to be back at church, and here she is talking about all this gloomy stuff. Let me just tell you, next week, opening to joy. And we will get there, my friends. We will get there, because that too has its place in this season, and I am not against it. But for this week, I want us to acknowledge that it's okay for it to be a blue season too. This is a time of snow and cold and hibernation and gestation, a time of quiet, of loneliness, of sorrow, of contemplation. And then too, to acknowledge that there are good things that come from this sad and cold time of year, good things that come from giving ourselves time to grieve and time to step away from that hustle and bustle. This time can be a time of gestation, a time of bringing new projects or simply new understandings to birth. This time can be a time of creativity, of using our sorrow as an opening to the muse of poetry or song or art or story. And this can be a time too when you don't have to be creative. This can be a time when contemplation just brings you into greater touch with who you have lost and who you want to honor in life. And for those bigger cultural forces that we're out of step with, this can be a time of proclaiming a message of justice too. Because for me, the other message of Christmas and of Hanukkah can be about justice. And again, I know the Christmas story better, so I'm going to connect with that one here. I find in the Christmas story, I find in there the stories of refugees fleeing from a hostile land in fear for their lives. I find stories of people living in poverty, unable to stay at a metaphorical inn. I find in there the story of the forces of empire setting themselves up against one small child. And the story that one small child alone, but especially with all of us, can stand up against the forces of empire. And that is a message that I need at this time of year and every year, whether I'm blue or whether I'm bursting out in red and green all over. So for this time of year, friends, may this be a time of growth, of soul seeking, of holding your tender parts dearly and carefully in love and care with one another. May it be so. Now we're going to sing our hymn in just a moment, but before we do that, I just want to give you a moment to share things that are on your hearts if you need to, and just to do that privately with the person you're with, or to turn to another person nearby. And if there is something that you are carrying with you this holiday season that you want to just be known, let us build beloved community by hearing what's true in each other's hearts. So just take a moment for that. And those online, you can share in the chat. Thank you, friends. In the bleak midwinter, love is born again. Please stand in body or spirit if you'd like to. Hum along as our members of our music department here lead us in song. Let us go in the peace and love of the bleak midwinter of this season, and hold the love and warmth of this community in our hearts until we are together again.